Today's episode covers the tragic case of Noah Donohoe, a 14-year-old boy whose disappearance and death remain the subject of investigation, controversy, and public concern. The information I'm presenting today is based on publicly available sources, including news reports, legal proceedings, eyewitness accounts, and family statements, and more. While I aim to present the facts as accurately as possible, some details remain disputed or unclear, and this case is ongoing. I want you to know that I am approaching this case with total respect for Noah, Noah's family, friends, and wider community. I do acknowledge the sensitivity of this subject matter. And this video is not intended to make definitive claims or accusations, but to explore the known facts and raise questions where necessary. I encourage you to form your own opinions and to seek out additional information if you wish to learn more about this case, including watching part 2 of this series. And lastly, before we get into the case, I'm going to be telling you quite a bit throughout this episode that we'll come back to this. There are so many details, important details in this case. Even with all the details, I'm afraid it still doesn't make sense, and you'll see what I mean. But to try and make it easier to follow, I want to go right through the timeline without veering off too much. So we will circle back later on to various different aspects of the day and week we're talking about. All sources I have used will be listed at the end of the episode. Thank you for being here. My name's Louise. You're welcome to A Drop in the Ocean, and let's dive in. Today's case centres around the disappearance and discovery of the body of Noah Donohoe in Belfast, Northern Ireland. Noah's family, 4 years on, still don't have any real answers as to what happened to Noah. The full inquest is still pending. So let's get to know Noah Donohoe. Noah's mum is Fiona Donohoe, a healthcare assistant from Strabane, County Tyrone, just at the Donegal border, one of my favourite places in Ireland. Back in the day, Fiona had gone to America to see more of the world, spread her wings. While there, she worked as a nanny, minding children, and then as a carer for the elderly. This was all cash-in-hand work. While she was there, she met Noah's biological father, Emmanuel, originally from Senegal, West Africa. But when Fiona discovered she was pregnant, she made the decision to move back home to Northern Ireland, where she could get a steady job, have a steady income, and give her child the best chances at a bright, successful future. So Fiona's son Noah was born in Strabane, County Tyrone on November 25th, 2005. After a few years, Fiona, raising Noah by herself, moved to Belfast with Noah, settling into South Belfast's University District. And in general, despite some racism from some locals, everything was going exactly as Fiona had hoped. Noah was a bright and compassionate young boy, always beaming with this infectious smile. He had a love for music and was skilled at playing the cello and later learning to play the guitar. He had gotten an electric guitar for Christmas, which he loved. In fact, the only times I've seen pictures or videos of Noah when he's not smiling is when he's playing the cello, the guitar, or singing in the school choir. Noah also enjoyed cartoons and his superhero movies. He had a passion for the arts, playing with his toys, and cherished day trips with mum, whether it was out exploring nature, visiting the zoo, or just heading to the beach. Noah attended St. Malachy's College Grammar School, a school where an aptitude test is required to gain entry. Here he excelled at academics, particularly in math, English and science. He dreamed of becoming a doctor to help people, and he was known for being articulate and thoughtful. During his brief 3 years at St. Malachy's, Noah earned significant recognition and several awards for his commitment and contributions to school life. Among these honours were the Spirit of College Award, full attendance accolades, class prizes, and achievements in the UK Maths Challenge. He was and was described by his teachers as highly intelligent. He loved to read and was even teaching himself Japanese. Noah was also very active in sports, playing on the school's rugby team and joining a local basketball team, the Peace Players, who aimed to bring children together from diverse backgrounds through sports. He embraced every experience life had to offer. Noah did have one fear. Noah was afraid of the dark. If anything could be said negatively about how everything was going, it would be the street that Fiona and her son Noah lived on. A crisis hostel had opened on the street during lockdown, the Queen's Quarter housing hostel, just a few doors down from Fiona and Noah's flat. This hostel was home to drug addicts, victims and perpetrators of abuse, and basically just people that you wouldn't like to be bringing your young child up around. These people would be loitering outside Fiona and Noah's door with friends and acquaintances, often actively taking drugs or selling them, with Fiona even witnessing an overdose taking place right on her doorstep. Fiona regularly contacted the PSNI, the police service in Northern Ireland, to try get the hostel or at least the occupants moved from the street. As did many other locals, there were even protests organised to have this hostel closed down, but the hostel remained. With Noah being biracial, and there was some racism around, Fiona and Noah really just kept to themselves where they lived. Noah would always either be with Mum or his friends when he would leave the flat. From watching footage of Noah and from listening to Noah's mum talk about him, Noah was very much two things at once. Well, Noah was a lot of things, but on one hand, he was highly intelligent, a motivated philosopher type of person, while also having a naivety or an innocence about him. He was really well liked by his peers and he had some really close friends who would remain loyal to Noah, friends he used to hug, just like he freely hugged his mum. Noah was able to talk about things. He was the type of boy who could say to his friends, I'm feeling a bit blue, so I won't be coming out. The type who would talk about his feelings like we encourage all young people to do these days. But he was also philosophical, encouraging his friends to look inside themselves, saying to one friend, ask yourself, are you truly happy with the things in your life? Imagine a 14-year-old boy. It just sounds like Noah, he had so much potential, like he could really be somebody, you know? Instead, here we are talking about Noah in a true crime episode. Noah was 14 years old, and like most 14-year-olds, his mother didn't know every tiny little thing about him. But in the days leading up to the fateful day we're talking about here, June 21st, 2020, Noah was acting a little different. He didn't seem terribly troubled, no signs of depression or anything like that, but perhaps a little more clingy with Mum, hugging more than usual, that type of thing. To me, just in my opinion, it sounds like maybe he was just a little bit anxious about something. Being 14, with all the hormones that come along with that, Noah's mum put it down to him just being a normal, moody teenager. Northern Ireland, June 2020. Everyone had been on lockdown since March. None of us will ever forget it. Least of all, Noah Donohoe, Noah's mum. Cast your minds back to lockdown. It wasn't easy for most people, particularly young people. Being away from their friends for extended periods of time, online learning, no social gatherings or extracurricular activity. Now Noah, of course, used this time productively to work on improving his music. He threw himself into online learning and read books, one of his many loves. Then, when lockdown lifted, everyone breathed a sigh of relief. A huge weight lifted. People were out on the streets just because they could be. It was no different for Noah. He found it difficult being away from his good friends. Although they had set up a Discord group. Discord, it's a social media platform where you can text, talk or video chat. And so this is what Noah and his friends did all the time. They would FaceTime every day and had lots of fun doing so. But it was still so exciting to have the freedom to actually meet in person, hug his friends again. So on Sunday, June 21st, when Noah asked his mum if he could go meet his friends at Cave Hill Park to work on their Duke of Edinburgh award, she reluctantly agreed. The Duke of Edinburgh Award, or the DOFE, was designed to challenge young people between the ages of 14 to 24 to attain standards of achievement and endeavour in a wide variety of active interests, to serve their community, experience adventure, and to develop and learn outside the classroom. So this is what Noah was going to Cave Hill to work on. Noah and two of his closest friends were texting back and forth to organise their trip to Cave Hill. Now, the other two boys, the two Noah was going to meet, decided against going at the last minute due to rain being forecast, I think, but Noah missed this in the messaging. These were texts between three young boys, shorthand texts if you like. The cancelling of the trip was one single word: no. The other boy took this as plans cancelled, but Noah dismissed it. So he told his mother of their plans. She wasn't very happy for Noah to go, as he hadn't eaten and it was nearing dinner time, but she gave in and agreed that he could go. Once he contacted her from his friend's phone at 6:30, as by this time Noah would definitely have reached Cave Hill Park. Noah didn't have credit on his own phone. Unfortunately, Fiona didn't have reason, she thought, to get Noah's friends' numbers from him before he left. She herself would regret this. Noah was to be home by 8 p.m. in time for tea. So Noah looked up Cave Hill, the route to Cave Hill, nothing else. He gathered his things together, his laptop and some books which had his name written on them, which he put into his khaki green backpack. He wore a khaki green North Face jacket, grey sweatshorts with an emblem on one leg, a tie-dye blue hoodie, Nike sneakers with a bright yellow tick, and his black skateboarding helmet. So he looked up the route to Cave Hill, saying goodbye to Mum at the door, and off he set, full of the joys of the adventure ahead. He would be taking the same route that he took to school for the first half of his journey to Cave Hill, so he was very familiar with this route. 6:30 rolls around. Fiona is waiting to hear from Noah. He always called or texted when he said he would. Always. Fiona repeatedly calls Noah's phone but doesn't get an answer. Fiona didn't know this at the time, but someone was actually in possession of Noah's phone, and it wasn't Noah. By 7 p.m, Fiona still hadn't heard from him, and she is worried, to say the least. Noah is extremely compliant. He said he'd contact her at 6:30. Him having not done so was a huge red flag to Fiona. She knew this meant something bad. So Fiona continues to call Noah's phone and still gets no answer. She will always regret, firstly, that Noah had no credit on his phone, and secondly, that she didn't have his friends' numbers, and she wants to warn other parents about this. By 8:30 p.m, Noah should be home. Fiona is frantic. She and a friend go searching themselves around Cave Hill Park, but find no sign of Noah or his friends. She returns back to the apartment. He's not there. She paces around up and down outside on the street, praying Noah will appear. 9:40 p.m. The dreaded phone call to the police to report that her only child, 14-year-old Noah Donohoe, is missing. The 911 call lasts 24 minutes. Before the call even ends, police are dispatched to Cave Hill to look for Noah. Excellent response time, just as you would expect when a child is missing. By 2 a.m, the police haven't found any sign of Noah at Cave Hill, so they meet back up with Fiona to talk about the situation, to, get an accurate description, an up-to-date photo, all the usual things that happen when a child goes missing. Monday morning arrives. Now Noah is missing since yesterday. Police notices are put out and the media start broadcasting that there's a missing child. That's when phone calls start coming in from people who saw Noah the previous evening. Noah never made it to Cave Hill. He had instead been in an area of North Belfast, a loyalist area, somewhere a biracial Catholic boy should have no business being. We're going to look at Noah's evening now, or at least what we know of Noah's evening. I struggled and went back and forth with this case about showing the area Noah was last known to have been, because I don't want to dox anyone, and even though it's widely available online, even BBC Live have it in many other places, I just felt a bit icky about it. But I've decided to go ahead and show it because it's just hugely relevant to the case. And I'm a visual person. I need to see where someone else is trying to describe, and many people are the same. So I have decided to go ahead and show it. So here's Noah's journey and the timeline. When Noah left his apartment at 5:41 on Sunday, June 21st to meet his friends at Cave Hill, he took the route he had looked up, the route he was very familiar with initially. But bizarre things occurred quite quickly. So here's the route Noah took, and as we look at the route, I'll tell you how we know he was where he was each step of the way. Before we begin along the route Noah took, I quickly need to explain a couple of things. The area we're talking about is Belfast city centre, Northern Ireland. Due to the troubles and the lasting effects even following the Good Friday Agreement or the signing of the peace treaty, which we'll discuss more later, this is a heavily monitored area. There are cameras everywhere. In fact, it's said to be the most electronically surveillanced area in the whole of the UK. Every street has CCTV, but also this is a commercial area with lots of businesses with CCTV, and then on civilian residences, doorbell cameras or ring cameras are very common. There are no trees planted to ensure it can be surveillanced. So there's footage of Noah on his strange final journey. Some footage, which Noah's mum, Fiona, has seen. Along Noah's journey, there were an estimated 180 CCTV cameras. Although only 22 of these have been used in the investigation, the PSNI did not summon businesses or private residences for footage. And the BBC gathered more CCTV footage, which the police hadn't gathered for an unknown reason. We'll come back to this. So let's begin what we know to have been Noah's final journey. Initially, Noah took the familiar route he would have taken to school. He should have taken this route and continued on past his school to get to Cave Hill, but instead, this is what took place. Noah began his journey in South Belfast, leaving the flat he shared with his mum. He followed this route, which had him heading for Cave Hill. He was seen on Ormeau Avenue at 5:45 p.m. 5:49 p.m, Noah is spotted cycling through the city centre. 5:50, he is seen in Victoria Square. 5:53, Noah is seen on Royal Avenue outside the university. Everything is looking normal. The first strange occurrence happens then on Royal Avenue towards Yorkgate. Noah is captured on CCTV, but his backpack has disappeared. And Noah is seen looking back over his shoulder. And we'll find his backpack, so bear with me. Also strange is that the moment Noah's backpack disappears, there is no footage available. No witnesses came forward. Again, this is a busy street of shops, cafes, businesses. Belfast city centre's busiest. More strange again is who is found to have Noah's backpack, but we'll come back to that. Then there's a sighting of Noah on North Queen Street, heading towards the Limestone Road at 5:57 p.m. It is along here Noah's phone would later be found the following day, on Monday, by the member of the public near a children's playground. However, it has very recently come to light, only in the last week, someone had Noah's phone before it was found on Monday, as there was a photo taken on Noah's phone, at least 39 minutes after Noah was last seen. Now, this is not information given out by the PSNI, as they said they found nothing of interest on Noah's phone. We'll address this later. At 6 p.m, Noah was seen falling off his bike at the Shore Road junction, both by a passing motorist and on CCTV. The motorist stopped to make sure Noah was okay, but Noah jumped straight back on his bike and cycled on. Noah's mother saw the CCTV footage of Noah's fall, as did Fiona's sister, Noah's aunt. Both say Noah didn't bang his head, and also remember he's wearing a helmet. When the PSNI saw the footage, they released a media statement that Noah had banged his head and maybe suffering from a concussion, maybe confused, disorientated, and that might explain what happened next, but not what has already happened. But at 6:01 p.m, Noah continues along Shore Road. Now his jacket has disappeared. His jacket has never been found, although it was allegedly seen, and we'll come back to that. Noah enters Northwood Crescent. His bag and jacket are the only items missing. He is now in North Belfast, in an area he should not be in. he would not have been in before, and he would not know anyone from this area. And taking this route also means he is now pedalling uphill, rather than the easier route he should have been going. 6:02 p.m, Noah is captured on CCTV, which his mother has seen. He is now without any clothing. He is exhausted and scared and pedalling furiously. He's turning into a street, and a silver car is shown turning into the same street behind Noah. This car has never been identified and no one has ever come forward. 6:11 p.m. There is an 8-minute gap here where there allegedly was no CCTV available or witnesses to how Noah came to be without any clothing. But the PSNI changed this timestamp from 6:11 to 6:08 to 6:03. The pathology report stated it was 6:05, so we have 4 different times for the last time Noah was captured. The 8-minute gap was reduced to 2 minutes, but still without any CCTV, any ring cameras or even eyewitnesses. 2 residents then see Noah as he enters a cul-de-sac in the housing estate. 14-year-old Noah, cycling, bare-skinned, so now Noah's backpack, helmet, phone, all of his clothing have disappeared. The first eyewitness says she sees Noah cycling, naked, toward 2 men at the top of the street. These 2 men have never come forward, never been identified. This woman didn't phone the police for over 24 hours as she said she thought it might be a Father's Day prank, as it was Father's Day in the UK. The second eyewitness saw Noah cycling naked out through her window. She also didn't contact the police as, although she and witness 1 say they didn't communicate at all, she also believed this might be a Father's Day prank. Noah's bike was then found laying in the street. It was moved by a resident into her own yard. This resident phoned the police 30 hours later. The last sighting of Noah was on CCTV, which his mum has seen, as he ran, naked, between 2 houses at the end of the cul-de-sac. No one called the police. That night, the residents in 4 of the houses out the back heard screaming. Now, I must say, as we'll discuss later, there is a serious lack of trust in the police in areas in Northern Ireland for both Republican and Loyalists. The PSNI are often accused of siding with the others, so phoning the police may not be the first thing people would automatically do. On Northwood Road, Noah's helmet was found, and a little further on his bike was found. Some of the rest of Noah's clothes were picked up by a civilian and placed on a wall in Northwood Road. But again, no CCTV footage, no witnesses to Noah removing any of these items. Some of Noah's clothes, his underwear, his shorts, his t-shirt and his jacket have never been found. Those that were found were collected and placed on a wall and then collected by a member of the police and left in an unsealed bag in the police station, meaning they were compromised. They couldn't be forensically examined as anyone had access to them, could have interfered with them. When the calls came in from witnesses who saw Noah on the final part of his journey and the woman who found Noah's bike, the PSNI could redirect their search from Cave Hill Park to the Northwood area where Noah had in fact been. The following morning, Tuesday, with Noah now missing over 24 hours, droves of people from both sides of the community came out to search for Noah. Everyone came together. The street Noah was last seen on, it wasn't taped off, so the search took place there. It wasn't treated like a crime scene, so no forensic testing could be carried out on that street. Everyone searching was allowed onto the street, except for Noah's mum, Fiona. So she stood at the top of the street, shouting out Noah's name. The bin lorries, however, they were allowed onto the street on the Tuesday to empty the bins while the search for Noah was still ongoing and some of his belongings had not been found. Strangely, when the police were given Noah's bike, which had been found by one of the residents, they went about just giving it back to his family. Now, his family recognised Noah is still missing. This needs to be taken in as evidence, forensically tested. So they gave it back to the police. They didn't accept it at all. However, It was raining this evening. The police felt they didn't have room in the station for the bike, so it was chained to a wall outside, meaning it couldn't be forensically tested, checked for DNA, fingerprints, blood. So along with Noah's clothes, his bike also could not be used as evidence of anything. They hadn't found Noah at this stage. All they knew was the last time he was seen, he had nothing. He had no phone, he had no clothes. But as I said, it was raining. So for the health and safety of the police officers, the PSNI called off the search. The search would have been, at this time, taking place in the back gardens of the houses in the cul-de-sac, but it was called off. Also on Tuesday, Fiona, Noah's mum, demanded an inspector come speak with her. She wanted the houses in the area Noah was last seen to be searched. She was told if she wanted this done, she would have to do it herself, appeal to the people to open their houses to the police. So she did, but there are no records of any of these houses ever having been searched. The searching continued, and for this, cadaver dogs were used, but they picked up no scent. Specialist divers were called in as there was a storm drain located behind the row of houses in the cul-de-sac. A storm drain some of the residents of the houses over 20 years living there were unaware of, an unlocked storm drain access point. This storm drain was only by right accessible to some of the residents as their property surrounded it, but it could physically be accessed by members of the public. Maintenance had been carried out on the storm drain only 3 days before Noah's disappearance, and it had not been locked afterwards. So in went the specialist divers using cameras on microscopic cables. Men on foot were also sent in to search for Noah, but they found no trace of him. Now remember, Noah was afraid of the dark, so Fiona knew Noah wouldn't have went into this storm drain. It was 1 metre in diameter and ran underground, pitch black, no light whatsoever. But everywhere had to be searched. Sergeant Moore Clark made a public appeal to Noah, telling him that he wasn't in trouble and to come home. But again, Noah's family knew Noah wasn't just voluntarily not coming home. That just wasn't Noah's character. As each day passes with no sign of Noah, everyone gets concerned. There are posts on Facebook, Twitter, all the social media platforms. And because of the area Noah went missing in, there are fears of this being sectarian, because this wouldn't be the first time a young boy was attacked due to sectarian conflict. However, both communities came together in droves to search for Noah. On Wednesday, the storm drain was locked, believing it had been sufficiently searched and Noah was not in there. However, the lock would be removed again and the PSNI would search further. On the Thursday of the search, it was broadcast the police believed Noah was still alive, with RTE stating they have not ruled out the possibility that Noah Donohoe may have been abducted or is being held against his will. Also on Thursday at 11:25 a.m, a senior officer was photographed at a manhole access point to the storm drain. This photo was taken by a long lens camera by a journalist from a nearby motorway. This caused speculation that Noah had been found, as a senior officer wouldn't normally be on the ground with officers who were searching, but the PSNI denied this, saying that the senior officer was just there for moral support. Shortly after that photo was taken, at 11:45 a.m, the search of the storm drain was terminated and the public were asked to stand down from searching to give the PSNI 48 hours and they would continue the search with their teams. Just within 48 hours, 2 days later, on Saturday, 27th of June, 6 days following Noah's disappearance, it was announced that a body had been found in the storm drain, almost a kilometre into the storm drain, 960 metres, in a mixture of sewage overflow and chemical waste, highly contaminated water. This was only 40 metres from where the senior officer had been caught on camera the previous Thursday. A statement was released immediately. Have a listen to this statement.
Good afternoon, everyone, and again, thank you for attending this afternoon. Unfortunately, I have some very sad news. I can confirm that our specialist police search and rescue team who were continuing to search a storm drain complex, recovered the body of a young male in the North Belfast area just before 9:45 a.m. today. While we have no official identification, we do believe it is the missing teenager, Noah Donohoe. Our thoughts and sympathies are with Noah's family, and we're continuing to provide support to them at this very difficult and heartbreaking time. It is disappointing that I again need to comment about people circulating a number of rumours about Noah's disappearance, which are completely without foundation. This type of commentary and rumour is distressing for Noah's family and is extremely unhelpful. An investigation into the circumstances of Noah's disappearance is still continuing, but there is no evidence to suggest foul play.
This body has not yet been identified as Noah. No examination whatsoever has been done. No pathologist has even seen the body, so obviously no autopsy, no toxicology report, nothing. And yet, no foul play is immediately announced. For the 6 days while the search for Noah was ongoing, there was no overtime allocated to the PSNI or any of their teams. None of this made any sense to so many people, least of all Noah's family. There were so many questions. What happened? Noah was afraid of the dark. They believed there's no way he voluntarily went into that storm drain. He didn't even know the storm drain existed, let alone that it was open, it was unlocked. Did the PSNI have more than they were saying? Nothing made any sense. It didn't add up. With so little captured on CCTV, how could it be said that there was no foul play or that there was no third party involved? This announcement was believed to have been surely premature. No testing of any kind had been performed at this stage, no investigation whatsoever. People were asking, could this have really been simply for fear of social unrest, trying to keep everyone calm without knowing what really happened themselves? Because not only was there suspicion that this may have been a sectarian attack, but this was also a time when the Black Lives Matter movement was gaining momentum, when black man George Floyd was killed by a white police officer, and then also White Lives Matter. But there's a 14-year-old's body, a Catholic biracial boy dying in extremely suspicious circumstances. So it's generally widely believed that what's really a priority here is Noah. So how did Noah get from the cul-de-sac to the storm drain? Let's have a look. On leaving the cul-de-sac, Noah would have been faced with open ground. But to get to the storm drain, Noah would have had to make his way around the back of the houses through the back gardens, where you would suspect he would have been seen. But then there's a little stream he would have had to jump over. The police say Noah probably went down there and found the storm drain. But from people who went and looked at the site, they said it would have been very difficult to find this storm drain. There was no lock on the storm drain, but the gate was heavy. It was a heavy grate, which Noah would have had to lift to be able to get into the drain. Of course, with such a bizarre set of circumstances and no answers forthcoming, rumours quickly circulated. Paramilitary involvement, drugs, county lines, all kinds of everything was thrown around, as is to be expected, which we'll get into more later. A toxicology report showed no drugs in Noah's system at the time of his death. Noah's autopsy, of which a full version has not been released, showed that Noah did not have a fatal or even serious head injury. He didn't have any kind of a significant head injury which would have caused any damage inside. It also showed Noah's cause of death was drowning. Noah had minor scrapes and scratches to his hands and feet. Time of death could not be confirmed. Noah's mum, Fiona, saw Noah's body. She said Noah had a large gash to the front side of his head and another bruise on one cheek, but apart from that, in Fiona's words, he was perfect. The gash he had on his head was 14 centimetres in diameter, and it was located where his helmet would have been protecting. When someone dies of drowning, as they are trying to breathe, when they inhale, their lungs take in the water instead of air. That's how it can be determined that the person died from drowning. If a body is placed in water following their death, no water will be found in the lungs. So when someone dies from drowning and they are found in a body of water, the water from their lungs is taken and tested with a sample of the water their body is found in. In Noah's case, the water in his lungs would be compared to a sample of water taken from the storm drain. This is common practice, especially if someone dies and there is some suspicion surrounding the circumstances. And in Noah's case, the pathologist requested a sample from the storm drain the very day Noah's body was found. And Fiona's solicitor, along with Fiona, were sitting with a lead investigator, and Fiona's solicitor said it to this investigator in front of Fiona, and she was promised this had been done. But that sample of water was never taken from the storm drain and handed over for testing, or at least if it was, this information has been kept secret. If it wasn't, it means it cannot be proven, or indeed ruled out, that Noah did in fact drown in the storm drain. No foul play, no third party involvement remains to be the official narrative, and suicide is the narrative that is pushed. Meaning this was all on Noah either way. He either chose to do this, or he voluntarily entered the storm drain and accidentally drowned. Now, the specialist divers say it's not possible that Noah's body could have been washed down the storm drain by the water to where it was eventually found. And this storm drain, it wasn't just an open tunnel-like structure. There are many obstacles and there's debris. There are chains inside it and it's pitch black. So it's also not possible that Noah climbed and crawled the length of the storm drain without getting scratches, bruises, cuts all over his body. But this wasn't the case. Noah's hands and feet had scratches, but the rest of his body was perfect. And then, of course, there are vermin down there. But again, Noah's body had no signs of any of this. Noah's body being found in highly contaminated water, a mixture of sewage runoff and chemical waste, although watered down, would have damaged Noah's skin. But again, no sign of any such damage. There was no water damage, only to Noah's hands and feet. From the moment Noah's body was found, it became difficult for Noah's family to get any answers from the PSNI. Questions remained unanswered. The public soon caught on to this in the weeks of silence that followed, as Noah's family themselves began issuing requests and pleading with the public to come forward with any information they have. Now, this is highly unusual for the family of the victim to have to do this. Normally, this would be the role of the police. One of the things I said I would come back to was Noah's laptop. On the Thursday during the search for Noah, his laptop was located. At the time, the information given out by the PSNI was that it had been located with the help of a member of the public. So here's what actually happened, or at least what we know of what happened. So if you remember, the first strange thing that happened on Noah's journey was when his rucksack disappeared, or his backpack. There was no CCTV footage of this, and there were no witnesses. Well, following Noah's disappearance, there were requests put out by the PSNI for any information regarding Noah's backpack, which contained his laptop and his books, as it had not been found. Even though his phone was found, his helmet was found and some of his clothing. The rucksack Noah was carrying, and then wasn't, contained his laptop and some books which had his name written on them. On the Thursday, while the search was going on, the police announced that his rucksack had been found. It was handed in with the help of one of the public. What happened was that the laptop had actually been seized from a room in the hostel. Yes, the hostel a few doors down from Noah and his mum's flat. The woman who had Noah's laptop was living in a room in the hostel and said she was holding the laptop for a man called Daryl Paul. This woman's name was Maria Nolan. The police arrived at Maria's room. They found the laptop and left. Maria wasn't arrested or even questioned. On the Wednesday, during the search for Noah, Daryl Paul and Maria Nolan had tried to sell Noah's laptop in a pawn shop, but they didn't have the charger for the laptop, so it was refused. A laptop without a charger is a red flag. It's probably stolen, and so the pawn shop didn't accept it. So then Daryl Paul went on and tried to sell it to a man at a party that night. The man anonymously phoned the police and informed them of this, as he knew that there was a search taking place for Noah, and the police had appealed to anyone for the rucksack or the contents of. Daryl Paul had then asked Maria Nolan to hold on to it for him. On Thursday, Daryl Paul was arrested for separate offences, nothing related to Noah. During his arrest, the police seized Noah's rucksack and his books, the books with Noah's name written on them, from Daryl Paul's residence. At the time, again, the items were just seized, the rucksack and the books, from Daryl's residence. Daryl Paul wasn't questioned about Noah, and no forensics were taken. Now, Noah is still missing at this time. His belongings found in Daryl Paul's apartment, but there were no questions and no forensics. Daryl Paul was finally interviewed 5 months later, and he was charged with trying to sell stolen property, Noah's laptop. But that's it. The police told the court they didn't believe Daryl Paul had any contact with Noah. The police claim that they have him on CCTV in an area a few miles away from Noah at the time that Noah's rucksack disappeared. Interestingly, I heard Noah's mum say she also saw these same two people, Maria Nolan and Daryl Paul, on CCTV outside the hostel, watching Noah as he cycled past them on that fateful day. Daryl Paul, who lived one street away from where Noah disappeared, at the time had almost 200 previous convictions, including violent offences. He was a known drug addict. The woman who was with Daryl Paul that day, Maria Nolan, she actually went ahead and gave a statement to Noah's family's solicitors. She had her own solicitor present at the time. This was a 5-page statement. This was in the weeks following Daryl Paul's arrest. Maria claimed on this Sunday, the 21st of June 2020, Noah Donohoe had been assaulted and his rucksack stolen by 4 men that she was with. 4 career criminals from the addiction and homeless community, one of whom lived in that same hostel, but moved out the day after Noah went missing, by the way. Maria said that they assaulted and robbed Noah and possibly threatened him with a needle. Coincidentally, this allegedly happened where the police say they have no CCTV footage of Noah. This statement made by Maria was given to the PSNI by the Donohoe solicitor. The Donohoe solicitor, Niall Murphy, raised this at a pre-inquest hearing on the 18th of January 2021, saying, in part, "We are aware that there is a line of inquiry into which some investigation is taking place and will require further investigation in respect of statements received by police that Noah may have been assaulted as he cycled through the city centre. We would appeal for anyone with knowledge of this event to immediately attend with police to make a statement." Mr. Murphy continued, "We have reason to believe that there is particular interest in specific knowledge of this assault in the homeless community and with those struggling with addiction issues, both in the city centre. And I'd also appeal to anyone who may have been resident at the Queen Quarter Housing Association in University Street in June. We appeal for businesses on Royal Avenue, at the junction at the bottom of Royal Avenue and North Street, and the Belfast Telegraph Building to review their CCTV from June 21st and to make this available to police. We also make a very specific appeal for people with relevant photographs stored in their phones to voluntarily present themselves and their phones to the police, to enable police to forensically download photos, verify times and location. Those people are not under suspicion, and certainly not by the Donohoe family. You've done nothing wrong, and you will get your phone back." None of the 4 men who were named, who allegedly assaulted Noah that day, were ever questioned. Sometime following this, Maria herself was charged with possession of stolen goods, Noah's laptop, and has withdrawn some, if not all, of her statement. We've seen that before on this channel, haven't we? Statements withdrawn. You'll remember little Mary Boyle. There was another statement made regarding Noah and what happened to him. This statement was made by a man who had been in prison, recently released, and he approached the Donohoe team. While in prison, he said a fellow inmate had told him that he had been involved in Noah's murder. that Noah had been drowned in a bathtub and then dumped afterwards in presumably the storm drain. We'll talk more about this later, but remember, a water sample from the storm drain was never compared to the water in Noah's lungs, so this can't be verified. Another issue at this time, in the weeks following Noah's death, the police told the family they had carried out a leaflet drop in the location Noah had last been seen, requesting people to come forward with information. However, it turned out this leaflet drop never occurred. This was put down to miscommunication. This did not help dispel suspicions that a thorough investigation into Noah Donohoe's death was not underway. Not for Noah's family and not for a lot of people. Because Noah's family felt the investigation into Noah's death was not giving them answers, they have their own team who have been independently investigating too. As questions remained unanswered and people from the locality remained silent, an army gathered. Noah's Army. Noah's Army is the title given to hundreds of thousands of followers Noah's family have behind them, all seeking the truth about what happened to Noah. But so far they don't believe they have received the truth. 2 years following Noah's death, there was a leak on Twitter, apparently in defence of the PSNI, saying that Noah had been out at 3 a.m. the night or morning before his disappearance. This was the first anyone, including Noah's mum, had heard about this. 2 months following this leak on Twitter, this information was handed over to Fiona's legal team from the PSNI. Sure enough, the PSNI had footage of Noah sneaking out at 3:30 a.m. Saturday night, Sunday morning, hours before he disappeared. He had left the flat he and his mother shared, wearing his shorts, t-shirt, flip-flops and carrying headphones. It was raining. He returned 35 minutes later without the headphones or his flip-flops. That is debatable. He did return without his headphones, but Fiona believes the flip-flops were in the flat, so perhaps with it raining and Noah trying to sneak quietly back in, he stuffed them into his pockets or something. But his headphones have never been recovered, that we know of, and no further details were given to Fiona regarding this secret outing. So we don't know who he went to meet, or if he even went to meet someone, or what the purpose of this trip was. Noah's electronic devices didn't give any insight that we know of, nor did they give any indication as to why, when Noah left to meet his friends in Cave Hill on June 21st, things took the dark turn that they did. Allegedly, the PSNI have this information about Noah sneaking out from the first few days of the search for Noah, before Noah was even found. Why was this kept from his family? How did the police even know to check back to the night before Noah's disappearance? Many people believe this secret outing could answer some questions at least, if more information was forthcoming. But little information is forthcoming, because before Noah's inquest in September 2022, the PSNI took out a Public Interest Immunity Certificate, or a PII. Police applied for and were granted a PII, and this means they did not have to disclose or release all the information they had regarding Noah's case to the public. Basically, a PII can be sought if it's believed releasing certain information could damage the public interest. For example, by identifying a police informant, or to protect police methods. Mr. Justice Humphreys has upheld a request from police for a Public Interest Immunity Certificate. Now, this baffled a lot of people, including Noah's family, who started a petition to get the files released. The files relating to Noah's death and the circumstances surrounding it. This petition would gain over 300,000 signatures. A phenomenal response and support from the public. Everyone wants to know what happened to Noah and what information is being kept hidden. When we have a 14-year-old boy's life cut short in such a bizarre set of circumstances. But the petition was unsuccessful. The files have not been released. Just in the past few days we learned about Noah's phone on the day he disappeared. We know for a fact Noah did not have his phone, without a doubt, following 6:11 p.m. Now, the PSNI had Noah's devices, meaning his phone and his laptop, analysed. This means they had all the data downloaded. Regarding Noah's phone, this data allows them to see what calls or messages were sent and received, what pictures and videos were on his phone, the location of his phone, everything. They could see everything, all data on that phone. But the PSNI said that there was nothing significant on Noah's phone. And on Wednesday, the 9th of October 24, there was one of many pre-inquest hearings. At this hearing, a solicitor for the Donohoes brought up Noah's phone. They had found there was a picture taken on Noah's phone of a hand, believed to be an adult's hand. That's unconfirmed. The timestamp on the phone for this picture was June 21st, 2020 at 18:40, so at 6:40 p.m, meaning Noah could not have taken this photo as he had none of his belongings following 1811 or 6:11. So who had Noah's phone at this time taking this picture? It sounds like it may have been an accidental photo, but remember, from 6:30 p.m, Fiona, Noah's mum, had been calling and calling Noah's phone repeatedly. The phone would have been hopping in the person's hand. The phone was found the following day by a member of the public and handed in. They had found it close to the children's playground. But who had the phone at 1840? The solicitors for Noah's family asked the court, were the PSNI aware of this photo, and if so, why they had withheld this information from the family? Had they investigated who had the phone, etc.? It now turns out Noah's electronic devices are also going to be hidden by this PII, but for what reason? This again creates more questions. Everyone knows all data can be retrieved from electronic devices, so it can't be because they don't want to release their methods. What information is on Noah's electronic devices that the PSNI feel the need to hide from the public? To date, the inquest has not been held yet, and there are still files relating to Noah's case which Fiona has not been permitted to see. Coroner Joe McCriskin, who has been the coroner since the beginning of Noah Donohoe's case, has recused himself from the inquest into the death of Noah Donohoe, to the great satisfaction of Noah's family. We'll get into this later, but there's now a gag order on Noah's family preventing them from discussing the details of Coroner Joe McCriskin's recusal until after the inquest. It is now hoped the inquest will be in February 2025. It will be held with a jury, and hopefully it's going to shed light on what actually happened to Noah. Now, there's a lot more relating to the death of 14-year-old Noah Donohoe. We've gone through a lot of details here today, but the inquest, which will give the final verdict on the death of Noah Donohoe, has had to be pushed forward time and again, for good reasons. As it stands, Noah Donohoe's death is classified as death by misadventure, meaning Noah went into that storm drain of his own accord, no third parties were involved, and there was no foul play. We'll get into it more in the next episode, but suicide is the narrative that is being pushed. So in part 2, we'll look more at the investigation, or lack thereof, the investigation Noah's family are doing, other details that have emerged since Noah's death, and a lot more, including some theories. We will be discussing paramilitary groups and drugs. We'll be going deeper into everything. The media are inclined to avoid this case, unfortunately. And Noah deserves his story to be told. He deserves for everyone, but especially for his mum, Fiona, to get answers, truthful answers. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you in part 2. If you or someone you know is affected by any of the issues discussed in this video, please seek support from appropriate organisations or helplines.